says, for someone beginning improv, outside scales, what are the most important things you think a saxophone should know? Well, let me ask you a question. And when you know the answer, raise your hand. As quick as you can. What's the flat 13th of an A flat 7th chord? Okay. Now you can put your hands down. When you know the answer to this one, raise your hand. What's the root of C major? Now you know what you should know. If you have to think, you're in trouble. The mind is a terrible thing. You don't want to use it. You just have to know it. You have to know the answer. You can't be thinking, oh man, flat 13, sharp 11 of E7, what the, it's just automatic. You have to know that so good, you have to know it better than spelling your name. If I had to spell my name, Jerrybergonzi, I can spell chords much better than that. Because I can spell them backwards, I can spell them from the middle, et cetera, et cetera. If I had to spell my name backwards, I'd have a hard time doing it. I have to say it slow. Chords, inside out. It's automatic. When a carpenter comes and does his gig, he looks across the room, he already knows how many feet that is. He looks up, he can check this room out, he knows. Musicians, our tools are chords and scales. You have to know that. You can't think about it. Why do you play drums so much? I'm a professional noise maker and I love making noise. That's the real reason. Questions? Yes?
Is it soundproof?
Ha ha! It is. No. They grew up listening to me, so, they just think the idiot's in the attic again, And it is soundproof, or reasonably soundproof. I have this tectum on the walls. You know what tectum is? It's that stuff. It's in one room. The room I play drums in is it's a great sounding room. The room I practice saxophone is really dead.
What about insulation? Wouldn't it get terribly hot?
In the attic, I have AC. I have central air.
Oh.
Yes.
I think you said when you were in New York, you jammed with Brecker and Liebman.
Yeah.
When you did, what was the biggest thing you learned from Brecker or Liebman?
To practice. No, I mean, when I think of each person brought something different. I had my loft and be sessions at my place because my drums were there. And sometimes, if I told one saxophone player, which I always would, we're playing tomorrow, why don't you come by? 5 people would show up because he would tell someone and they would tell somebody else. Sometimes, it'd be Pat LaBarbera with Dave Liebman and I could go on. You probably wouldn't know the other guys, that New York guys that are now dead. But there'd be 5 players. Sometimes I'd be playing drums. We didn't have a drummer. But the thing that I learned the most, I learned something from everybody. How to develop solos, from Mike. I mean, just his language, his facility, and how definitive he played. Every note that he played was meant to be. It wasn't I'm in search of. It wasn't the it wasn't the Field and Stream School of Music, hunting and fishing. He was there when he played something. It was really meant to be. Lieb was such conviction, and Bob Berg was just, fantastic. But yeah, you just listen to these guys play, and it's just the way they played time. And and everybody had something different they brought to the table. They played the time. That's the main thing. The way they played time. Steve Gross would come over sometimes. Greg Herbert. Just the way they played time and. And they all had their own sound, or developing their sound. Even at an early age, You can't help it. If you listen to yourself now, you don't realize that you have a sound. Questions? The meter is running out. Yes, thank you for being here, man, with all those questions. Perfect.
What do you want? Anyway, regarding relevancy of jazz, as a 50-year-old, I see young people hip-hopping and largely ignoring higher forms of music, and of course the technology is not really favorable to more complex forms. So I know you deal with young people a lot in your teaching activities. What do you think jazz can do as a whole to continue to stay relevant and reach out to young people?
You know, every time I get a question like that, I always ask young people what the answer is, because they have their finger on the pulse of music, and I wonder what they're thinking. How can jazz be relevant to young people? Like, I had a student, she's a freshman, she's really, really talented. Stephanie, I forget her last name. She's from Minneapolis anyway. She's always telling me, she said, man, is there any kind of other jazz in this school? It's so boring. You know, the same tunes, and isn't there any electric stuff we can do? And I completely agree with her. You know, I mean, how many years can you play the same tunes over and over again, no matter if you put them in 5/4, 7/4, reharmonize them, etc.? That's why it's important to compose new material, to try to do some different things, to try to get some different instrumentation, to forget about... People say, well, do you pay any attention to the tradition? Do you care about the tradition? And my answer says, no, I don't care about the tradition. I grew up with, listening to that music. I love it. But if you don't, it doesn't bother me. Why should you pay any attention to what I love? Do what you love.
Great answer. I pretty much feel the same way.
Yeah, I feel that's, we got enough people to know all the things you are, How much do you think your piano drum playing enhance your sense of rhythm when playing sax? I think it helps me a lot, because it helps me. Not only does it help me as a saxophone player, but it helps me how to listen to what they're doing. I understand it more. I can relate to it more. I hear them play something, and I know what it is, or almost know what it is. Say, thank you for telling me to stop thinking. What is your relationship with Rampone in perspective? Well, Claudio Zola is one of my best friends. I love this guy. We have the same birthday, different years. And he's such a dedicated person. I've been to his factory when his whole family and the relatives are there making the instruments handmade. And to see the love that goes into the instruments and the research, it's pretty inspiring. It's amazing. And to see the commitment to the artists and the way they work with them, it's awesome. So, yeah, that's what I think. Are play along instructional CDs effective? Yeah, absolutely. Play along CDs are fantastic. We didn't have them when I was a kid. Or there was one, but I couldn't play along with it. It was too difficult. There was like 4 chords per bar. It's one of those guitar things where they comp a different chord, chink, chink, chink. I said, man, I'm having enough time dealing with 1 chord per bar, never mind 4. So I learned how to play by just putting the records on and playing along with the records all day. And I play along with the tenor solos, of course the melody, and the trumpet solos, and the bass solos, and the piano solos. And I picked up what I could. And if I couldn't hear it, I'd play something else. And if I really couldn't hear it, I'd just record it on my tape recorder and then transcribe it. without my instrument. Without my instrument. And that was. Am I still on? We're good. It's all good. Yeah. So, but that's how I learned how to play.